Thanks for joining us for another segment of Creative Conversations. I'm Fowler Black with the Paducah Visitors Bureau. Today, we're going to be having a discussion with another cornerstone of creativity in the Market House Theater. In this segment of Creative Conversations, we are highlighting another partner who embodies the Paducah Creative City brand, being certainly a cornerstone of creativity. These segments that we are airing are part of a celebration of the 10th anniversary of Paducah's UNESCO Creative City designation. Now I'd like to introduce the two representatives of Market House Theater. One that many of you know already has been the executive director for almost half a century at Market House Theater. Executive Director Michael Cochran and the current board president Megan Mulry, also a project manager at Four Rivers Nuclear Partnership. Thank you all for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us, Fowler.
As I introduced, I said partners that highlight or embody the creative spirit or the Paducah's Creative City brand. I am not sure that there is a better example of that in Market House Theater in all that you've done. MHT fulfills both the literal and figurative versions of that moniker, cornerstones of creativity, in the fact that, number one, Market House has a campus almost of buildings at this point. Michael, I love what you said at one point in some of your promotional material, that historic preservation is in the DNA of Market House Theater. How many buildings at this point has MHT taken on?
The theater has 11 buildings that we operate out of. 9 of them are right in the heart of Market House Square. The Market House is a historic building, and the city of Paducah owns that, but the other buildings, the other 10 buildings, the Market House Theater owns. When I came to Paducah in 1983, the community was kind of that mix of a little bit industrial, kind of retail downtown, and I've seen, since my 40 years here, I've seen the downtown community transformed by arts and culture, with the Market House and our expansion, with the National Quilt Museum, with the Carson Center, with the restaurants like the Freight House. It's just been an explosion of creativity that's happened down there.
And that's part of our cultural identity. And certainly Market House Theater has been one of the stalwarts, one of the shots in the arm. I mean, you mentioned being here since 1983. 1963 is when the theater really began in the Market House, correct?
And it was founded because the Civic Beautification Board wanted to save the Market House building from being torn down to make a parking lot. So the city and the Civic Beautification got together and said, hey, can we make a cultural center out of this and save this building? So the theater was founded to save a historic building, and then every time we've expanded since then, the historic preservation DNA comes in and we go, okay, how do we keep that going? How do we make this a vibrant place with activity 7 days a week and people coming and going and getting people downtown?
And I think that in the nature, the concept of adaptive reuse of buildings, that in itself, I think, embodies creativity because you all are giving new purpose to these places in its activation. So I think that certainly the literal cornerstone you all have been. The figurative cornerstone, Market House Theater develops the creative potential of the people of our region. And that's part of your mission statement, I think. Mm-hmm. How are you meeting that mission day to day in providing creative opportunities for our residents, but also for those who end up coming to Market House Theater for entertainment?
I mean, there are so many ways, and the impact that Market House has regionally, you can feel it when you see the students from other counties that come to see shows. Most recently, we did a kids program, Junie B. Jones, and they had school day matinees. And just my daughter was in it, and just hearing the feedback of the young students in front who, wouldn't really have an opportunity per se to get to come to the theater and have a question and answer, time with their peers, and it really resonates with them and shows them that this is something that they could do, and then obviously you see it through the footlights classes and MHT dance. I mean, any Saturday that you go downtown, it is just a buzz of all the age groups coming and going, and seeing the parents and the grandparents also enjoying the businesses that have set up around Market House Square. So it's just nice to see all the tie-in there.
And bringing the creative opportunity to the kids.
Yes.
I think that is something that Michael's wife, April, really has done an incredible job, had an incredible career, no telling the numbers of kids that she has reached by bringing that creative opportunity to the kids and in outreach education.
Yes.
And I think we learned early on to use theater as a teaching tool to expand that creative potential that we talk about, because we're teaching life skills. We're teaching how to communicate. We're teaching how to have confidence when you get in front of a group of people, how to communicate your emotions. All of those things the kids think are fun, but we're teaching them life skills. And I like the brand that we have. We don't just entertain, we change lives. And that's kids and adults are bringing that ability to bring that creative part of themselves out and share it with the community.
So a confidence creator, no doubt. I mean, I personally, I'm not sure that I would have ended up giving tours in tourism, and being in front of people or talking in front of a camera right now without the experience I had as a child, even in Market House. But it also creates community too. And you mentioned adults as well as children. Certainly when a show is put on, I end up at the end of a show almost feeling like summer camp is over.
Yeah.
And what would you want to speak about in terms of creating community through the theater?
Oh, I mean, theater to me has always been, there's always been an aspect of home there. And it's just wonderful seeing that, tradition continue through my child who's now involved with Market House Theater. But I really, the 60th celebration that we had, about 4 weeks ago for the 60th anniversary, just hearing the stories. A number of former students of April submitted videos that we were able to play because they weren't able to come into town. And just hearing how Market House impacted them, as well as the people that now they interact with, be it in New York City or wherever they're currently located. So from a standpoint of, I mean, there's always a part that someone can play at Market House, be it if you're helping with costuming or helping just, come and usher a show and get to experience that. And just, obviously we need technical skills and other aspects. So it's someplace that everyone can find that they have a skill set, that they really can contribute to it. And then in turn, what that brings to the community itself, because it's right there on that hub downtown Paducah. And so every patron that walks in, every, theater goer gets to see, the piece of their coworkers, their family, their children that have, been brought together to make that happen. And it just, you can feel it.
And I will say that more people are involved in arts than there are in sports. Yeah. And that is something that most people don't think about. But you have bands, you have theater, you have choirs, you have all kinds of things. And we're doing a show at the Paducah Middle School right now, and I watch these kids who walk down the hall who are just kind of keeping their head down. They kind of blend in, and then you get them on stage, and there's something inside of them, and they're like, I have found my spark. I have found the thing that gives me joy in life. And that really is a community feel.
Yeah.
And Michael, as you are in your 40th year now, you had planned on maybe staying 2 years in Paducah, right?
Right.
As
Thought I'd be here 2 years.
as a stepping stone to go somewhere else. So what was it about Paducah and perhaps the community here that kept you around for 38 more years?
You know, there is something in this community. People say things like the Market House and the Carson Center and all these things shouldn't exist in a town this size. But there is a sense from the people of wanting to create opportunity, wanting to support people's ideas and their passions here that you don't find in some other places. And every time I thought, or I got an offer to go someplace else, I went, you know what? I get people who support the visions that we have and the things we want to do here, and I don't think I could find that any better in any other place. I'm from big communities. I grew up between Chicago and Milwaukee. I worked professionally in Kansas City and Chicago and LA. And there is something about Paducah that just feels comfortable and feels like home. And feels like this is the place where you can create and do something special.
And have support along the way through community. You mentioned sports and how arts and culture might compare to that in terms of participation. Recently, the Americans for the Arts released a new study about arts and culture and its impact. These studies typically revolve around economic impact, but this one was a little different in the fact that it was social impact and it measured social impact. And so I think that and you all participate in these studies when they come out. So certainly, in terms of social impact, what do you see on your end that is worth highlighting? Whether it's culture's effect on the well-being of the community, or perhaps you described a student who might be sparked on stage. Social impact. Where does Market House Theater specialize in that?
I would say that we tell stories that are important to the community. And we make a concerted effort to tell stories that encompass all of the community. We're about to do a play, Native Gardens, which is about two different kinds of people who move in next door to each other, and the stereotypes that they have of each other that come out during the play. But in the end, it's the same story for all of us. We may look different, we may come from different places, but we are connected through so many things, and that's what the arts can do, is to connect different parts of a community. The Hotel Metropolitan in Paducah has a wonderful story to tell, and we try to enhance what we do to make sure that we have all parts of the community involved at Market House Theater, and I know that that is what enriches our community life and our cultural life.
Exactly. Of course, the study on the economic impact side is pretty telling as well. I was looking at some of the features that were key to Paducah, and one of them was 90% agreed that the activity or venue was a source of neighborhood pride for the community. And another one was very tourism related, and at least 50% of the arts and culture attendees were from outside the county. So Market House is really definitely a regional player.
We are a regional theater.
That you are pulling in. But you're also different from the Carson Center in the fact that you are, I think, a chamber theater. Can you describe the advantages of being more of a chamber theater?
Well, we learned long ago that our power comes from being intimate, being up close and personal. So we do shows where the audience is right there and they're a part of the story. The Carson Center does an incredible job of big spectacle with Broadway touring shows, with different things that come in, and you sit and you look at this big picture. With us, it's about that human story that goes on right there. And it also, because we are a community theater, our kids and our adults that are amateurs, they do better. They excel when we don't have to mic them and they're in a huge space that they don't get a chance to rehearse in, and they have to fill this whole thing. They just get to share their talent, and the people who are up close, they respond to that. So it's a real beautiful symphony of people connecting in different spaces that do different things, that niche. And that smallness for us, when we expanded into another studio theater, we kept that in everything we do. That's our niche in the community.
Well, I know that bringing people together from all different backgrounds, your profession, of course, as a project manager at Four Rivers Nuclear Partnership, and this is a pretty important season to be in the position of president for Market House Theater, with it being the 60th.
Absolutely.
You bring a special perspective, Megan, to that role. What have you learned as president of the board that maybe you didn't know prior?
Well, a lot of things. I'll try to keep it short here. Prior to joining the board, I did know, you've used the word, what a cornerstone Market House was. I did know what Market House meant to me as a resident of Paducah. I know when I moved here from the Northeast, almost 17 years ago, it was a challenge for me to, find my niche here. And when I was first introduced to Market House Theater, it really just made me feel like, wow, there's something extra special about Paducah, and it really just honed me in. But from a board perspective, it really, hearing the stories firsthand, being in the community and talking to people, when people ask, you're on the board, and I said, well, I'm the president of the board, and just them sharing how Market House has impacted them, impacted their families, their parents, the stories of, well, my dad used to act, and then I did footlights, and now the kids are in it, and of course they come and see the grandparents come and see the kids perform, and there's just a generational aspect. So it's given me a whole different perspective about how Market House has personally influenced everyone here, because you can see, just living in Paducah, the impact that it has, obviously economically, and then just to drive downtown on any night and seeing, the light coming from the theater, and then now across the street from, the Finkel's block, and the presence is just always felt. And so from a board perspective, it's been tremendous to have an opportunity to be part of watching the theater grow, looking towards the future and how we can continue to impact, finding new ways to bring in, certain communities that have not been as involved in the theater. And, so I'm very thankful to have that opportunity, and it's going to be sad when I'm not part of it. So, but
Michael, this is an example of people who volunteer their time and give what they know. You are a professional at dealing with volunteers. I mean, that is one of your many talents, is empowering that. That is I myself have had some experience with volunteer organizations, but as a thespian myself at the theater, I never dreaded coming to the theater, giving my time. And there's, again, a spark about that. How do you inspire this volunteerism within your organization?
Wow. Well, I think the key to it is that people want to do something that has meaning, that has value to them. And so when we ask people to be on the board, we ask them to help us with the important questions. It's not just kind of checking off a box and showing up and doing this. When we ask people to audition for a show, they get cast in a show, or they work on a crew, they feel like they're an important piece of what that whole process is. And that's what's important about volunteers. They want to have their time respected, so you respect that time commitment they're giving you, but they also want to feel like they made an impact. And I think that's a key to any organization with volunteers, is getting them engaged and making them feel like they made a difference.
Well, that's the amazing thing to me about what you all do, is because the breadth of offerings that you have. I mean, Michael, you're the busiest guy I know.
He is.
And you always have been. And
Yeah.
and I just, talk about working 7 days a week. This guy does it.
Yes.
And when you take a look at the breadth of offerings that MHT has, and the fact that you're inspiring volunteers to fill a lot of this, just take us through, Michael, the breadth of offerings that MHT gives it gives the community through creativity.
Well, we have youth programming, so we have educational classes on our campus and in the school system. About half of what we do is educational programming, and a lot of people don't even see what's going on in the classrooms in schools all across our region that we're providing that theater as a teaching tool part of. We have a whole dance program that started out as just a couple kids who wanted to learn how to tap dance better to do a show, and now it's a whole program of teaching those fundamentals of dance. We have a relationship with Harmony Road School of Music, which leases space from us, and they do music classes. We do murder mystery dinner theaters. We do touring shows that go to rural schools that we are the only arts thing that comes to them. And it's the little country school with the dog waiting by the door for the kid to get out that we're loading in a 30-minute musical show with 4 actors in a van. We do Playtime, which is early childhood education shows, which is about literacy and getting the parents to read to the kids the story that they just saw, and the kids get to act out the stories. We are in the Head Start programs in the city and the county school system. We have the signature series that we do for adults, which is our main season shows, and we do some musicals and non-musicals. We do a high school improv troupe. We do a little bit of everything, and it attracts different people to each of those things, audience members. Some come because they love the musicals. Some people come to the offbeat Misery when we do that at Halloween. Some come to the improv stuff. Everybody comes for different reasons, so we try to attract different groups of people.
Awesome. You failed to mention a couple of things that you also do, and that you're in the accommodations business as well.
We have 4 guest artist departments that we use when we bring in guest directors and designers, but when they are not being used for those, they're on Airbnb, so we're in the hotel business too, and some days we're flipping 4 apartments to make room for the guests that are coming that night. And we have some retail space that we lease out for a jewelry store. So we have a lot of different areas that we are a part of that make the whole of Market House Theater.
I can't imagine what a board report would be on a on a monthly basis for all the things you cover, and also you've got many things that as you said, don't happen within the public eye, and half of that would be education. Would you say that there are additional opportunities elsewhere that, as you look to the future, how for outreach, maybe how to reach communities that obviously the schools provide the communities, but are there other ways in which Market House Theater could serve communities that may not be served yet?
I without a doubt, we know that there are opportunities there, and the board. We had a retreat last spring, and so we sat down. We were doing some reevaluation. Coming out of COVID with all the new spaces, we really needed to take a beat to see how we could maximize the impact that those spaces could bring to the community. And one of the takeaways from that was the board has decided to meet with all of the actual employees that work with Michael, and tap their brains and get them engaged in how Market House can expand and where are our growth opportunities and what can we do. I know one thing Michael didn't say, which impacted where I work, is We have, some professional development. And one of the first meetings they did was they had Michael come in and teach us essentially. So you're talking grown adults, people that have been, down in Keble working for years, about to retire, learning brand new ways to communicate with new people and what to do in different situations. And I frequently have people still come up to me, and it's been 6 months since he did it, and just say, "Hey, wait, that Market House guy that came in," well, but they'd be like, "I used what he taught me how to do today. Someone was being negative, and I just took that opportunity to turn it around." And, so Michael, he continues to find new ways to bring the Market House message and his wonderful skill set and talents to bring theater to people who you wouldn't think, would be impacted by it. And then, of course, they in turn now come and start seeing shows down at the theater itself. So
that brings me to my final thought and curiosity, just about the organizations in Paducah that are key to our identity, cultural organizations. And it seems to be right now we're facing new chapters of leadership. And Michael, what is it that will evolve or sustain itself in passing the torch on and keeping the spirit alive?
Well, I think it is keeping your eyes on the mission and the vision of what you're trying to accomplish. And part of the retreat was, we talked about bringing in new people and basically carving off little pieces of what I do so that what I do is not so overwhelming to a new person to come in. And I think for all organizations, it's really going back every time we get confronted with a challenge, whether it's COVID, whether it is, a financial recession or something else, you go back to what's the core mission that we are trying to accomplish. And if you keep focused on that, things tend to work out pretty well. And I think that's for our board, for our staff, and for other organizations in the community, that's the key to us being effective moving into the future.
Yeah.
Great way to finish out. Thanks to both of you for joining us today on Creative Conversations. It's been a pleasure talking a little more in depth about Market House Theater. Be sure to join us next time with another partner who embodies that Paducah Creative City brand. We'll see you then.